Okay, wait, let me get my screen here. So we are going to talk per Nicole, and I think it's a great topic actually, about foods like bread, like foods that maybe are we wondering, like we get in the weeds about, like, oh, is this good? Is this not good? Like, we're not sure, because I do hear that all the time. And just literally for shits, I Googled what is the healthiest bread, like just out of sheer curiosity. Because I've heard people say this to me, like on keto, oh, I can have a slice of rye bread that mixes with keto better, or I can have a piece of sourdough, and so I've always been like that. I don't get it. And those breads in particular are supposed to be like easier to digest or lower glycemic index values. But my personal take on bread, whenever somebody says, I know I had toast with my breakfast, I feel like when we're out and about in the world and we're just need to get something to eat, we want to make a decent, pretty decent choice. You can pretty much get a sandwich anywhere in the world, in any city, like literally in any direction. There's always a grocery store that makes sandwiches. There's always like, sandwiches are just like really easy to get. And so I always feel like it's kind of like anything else that is semi-processed, because bread is, it's a processed food. But I feel like it's a decent food. If you're having bread for every single solitary meal, maybe I would
Just have to.
Maybe like, you need to like back off the bread. But in terms of bread, I really am not sure that it matters so much what kind, because we do have to enjoy our lives a little bit too. And so that's kind of like my take on bread. But Nicole, I in particular want to hear what you have to say on it, because you did ask to talk about it. So if there's also any other foods out there, like, what's another one people get wrapped up in? They get wrapped up in pasta. Can I have pasta? I know it's not for me. Like all these other kinds of things. So if anybody has any other kinds of foods that they want to talk about tonight, let's talk about it. Let's collaborate. Who knows what we're going to find? I mean, look, Raquel's eating green chicken chili with potatoes and zucchini per Nicole last week on the call. So let's just talk about it and bring up ideas and our perception on these foods.
Is anybody else in this group gluten-free?
I'm gluten-free.
Have you found anything that you like?
So I have not found anything that I've liked. I would say I haven't been diagnosed with any type of illness or disease or anything like that, but I definitely have discomfort when I eat gluten. And I figured that out by doing elimination diets. So I have a sensitivity to gluten as well as dairy, specifically cheese, which I love, love, love. So I just kind of avoid it. And then when I do indulge, I just prepare to be either home the next few days or just kind of grin and bear it. But I asked Coach Leah if we can do something about bread, because I have really been, I would say, wanting a sandwich. I love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It used to be my go-to breakfast when I was younger. And I have indulged in bread over the last, I would say, month. And I can definitely tell that I'm bloated. The discomfort, the pain is there. So I have not been able to find a gluten-free bread that doesn't taste, look, and feel like cardboard. Like they just look horrible. I've tasted a few, and even at like $6-7, I'm still willing to just throw them out because they're just that bad. So I asked the group if they knew of any gluten-free breads that are at least tolerable with a little bit of butter and some toast.
I use Canyon. It's Canyon something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they have a white bread that's gluten-free that I've actually used to make my eggs with, because I push down the center and put the egg on top and then put it in the air fryer till the egg is done. And that's done pretty well. But as far as to make like a sandwich, I haven't found anything that I like either.
interestingly enough, in this little Google search I did about I literally put in, what is the healthiest bread? It does talk about gluten-free bread. I mean, this is like bro science, this is not anything. But it does suggest a bread called barley bread, grain-free bread that has not that many, because gluten-free bread we're not used to the other flours, and it's really hard to like manipulate wheat. It's just like the best baking flour on the planet, and we're used to it. But it might be worth trying if you see it. Also, Coach Rachel, she's the coach of the Mamas group. She is gluten-free also, and she researched that it's not necessarily the gluten in the bread that is like the problem. It's how in America, in the USA in particular, how they process and refine and grow their wheat. And so she found a lady who has a company who actually like grows, it's like European wheat, and they do it completely different. And she got it and made her own bread and said, it's amazing. And she does not do gluten either. She's like, she's not a celiac, but she's definitely like, any amount of gluten bothers her. So I don't know. I know, Nicole, you're a foodie. If you would be
jovial icorn or ecorn or something like that is what that's called, because I found that out last week on my call. So
about the bread, about the flour.
Yeah, and it's jovial. I want to say elkhorn or ecorn or
she at one point told me, because you're right, gluten-free bread stinks.
And I actually have an exercise-induced allergy to wheat in particular. So that's why I have to be gluten-free. Plus, it does all the bloating and all the other stuff. But I'm also allergic to corn. So I have a double whammy. But I still eat corn pastas, gluten-free corn pastas, because they're the best ones out there.
Mm-hmm. So as far as the gluten-free bread, I don't know what to say, except for maybe this flour might be the solution to your sandwich problem.
I'm going to try it. I just haven't ordered any or gotten any yet.
Is the brand you were talking about the Cannon Bakehouse?
Yes, Cannon Bakehouse.
Yep, that's the one that Coach Rachel recommended. She said we can find it at supermarkets and Walmart. So I just haven't been back to a Walmart since that post, but I'm going to check it out. Maybe like the English muffins first, because I can use those in more areas probably.
Yeah, and toast it, because if you don't toast it, it won't taste good at all.
For sure.
So what's the difference between what's the difference between an English muffin and a piece of bread? Like, why is an English muffin? Because I've had other people tell me, it's better to choose an English muffin over a slice of bread. Is that such a thing?
Maybe I don't think so. I think that's BS. But maybe they're trying to say that because some English muffins are sourdough English muffins, and sourdough is supposed to be like better than regular bread, or something. I'm
okay.
Not whatever, but Raquel, I wouldn't hold that as gospel or anything.
Okay.
I just wouldn't. I mean, and this is all, everything in moderation, including moderation, right? I love saying that because it's true. But like Nicole said, like if you eat things and they don't make you feel good, then that should be motivation enough to trust your body and be like, hey, I don't want to eat that. But if it makes you feel fine, if you're not, a piece of bread every day, let's go back to what I said last week. It's not about the blank that makes you gain weight. It's about the calories. And so as they say, people maybe think like if you're gluten intolerant, and gluten's high inflammation food. So that would be my only thinking to why people think it's bad. But besides that, we cannot demonize a certain food group. It just doesn't work that way. It's not the actual food that makes us gain weight. It's the calories. So that could come from good food. That could come from sweet potatoes and chicken and broccoli. So, you know, that's what I want you guys to wrap your mind around is like, there's no such thing as like a certain food is going to make us blank.
Oh, hi. I'm Rose.
Rose.
This is my first. Nice to meet y'all. This is my first food call and second call ever for this. But Marlena is my coach, and I have talked to her about this. But I have an egg sensitivity. I have a lot of. I put it all together, right? So it's like egg, dairy, and IBSD and GERD. So all the good things, right? But I manage it. Before Fitme, I would manage it with like a really bland diet if it was acting up. Like I know my trigger foods, but I'm having a hard time with breakfast in particular because I don't do eggs, and I feel like every Fitme plate breakfast is eggs and veggies, and it bums me out. I'm like, I want to eat an egg with a veggie, but I know it won't be
You have a
good
little
for
egg
me
FOMO.
later. I do. I'm like, that's so easy. You guys have all your Fitme plates done in the morning. Like,
I like to eat few for breakfast, and I can't eat eggs every day. Otherwise, I would.
yeah.
So you have to get out of the mindset of eggs for breakfast, like
Yeah.
sausage and sweet potatoes and veggies, or you know, butternut squash. I have sweet potato, butternut squash, and chicken with Brussels sprouts. So you just have to get eggs for breakfast, and that's not easy to do.
And that's funny that you mentioned that because that's what Raquel's problem was. Not that she's intolerant to eggs, but that eggs take too long. And so that was last week for breakfast. And Nicole suggested like soups or stews or anything like that, that the meat reheats really well. If you're not like a leftover meat reheater, because my husband's not, he says it just tastes weird. But stews and soups and stuff, meat doesn't do that. It like holds.
Yeah.
And so
I need to like get used to this whole like eating lunch dinner meals for breakfast because like right now I was telling Marlene I do plain oatmeal, like unsweetened plain oats with PB2 in it. So I get my carb, my protein, and I probably could have a little veggie on the side, but every morning I'm like, it's like 9 a.m. I don't really want spinach, but like I gotta like figure out a way.
it's just baby steps. Like
Yeah.
maybe you're just gonna have like a couple pieces of broccoli the first day and be like, oh, okay, that's done. And then kind of
Yeah.
figure it out. Like we kind of talked about this last week. I cook my breakfast. My stomach has no time. I don't like breakfast food. I could eat sushi in the morning, you know, eggs at night. Like it doesn't matter. My stomach has no time. And so I'm not stuck in this mind frame that I have to eat breakfast foods for breakfast. And so kind of just wrapping your mind around that, like, what do you like to eat?
That's what I started with that because I had that same issue that I couldn't get out of the mindset of, all right, I'm used to eating breakfast sandwiches that have the egg, the ham, you know, the cheese, the English muffin, whatever it is for breakfast, or on the weekends, the savory pancakes and French toast and all the good stuff. So what I started doing was just having my favorite meals for breakfast. So I love steak. I'm a steak person. So I would meal prep steaks and then slice them up. And that way I would have like a couple of strips of steak with roasted potatoes and I like Brussels sprouts and asparagus. So I would roast them in the oven and have those as my breakfast in the morning, just in a smaller portion. So to Coach Leah's point, if you focus on what is your favorite veggie, you pair that with the oats and the PB2 and start there, because if it's your favorite, you'll more than likely eat it.
Brussels sprouts are a great breakfast food, in my opinion, with potatoes and sausage and.
Yeah, I like the
maple
sausage idea.
People ask me all the time, like, what's the best exercise? And I'm like, the one you'll do. And so I kind of feel that same way about like foods, like, what's the best breakfast? The one you'll eat. Like, and so it's kind of the same kind of point. Like if we're trying to force ourselves into something we're just not into, it's probably not going to last. So it could be trial and error and trying something and being like, I don't really like that. Okay, fine. That's not the end of the world. Let's try something else. And not getting too wrapped up, just really keeping an open mind in the process and being like, this is just experiments, which is kind of fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. I'm eating breakfast. That's already different than I used to do.
100%. And sometimes if I eat a breakfast that does not have a vegetable, I'll make sure at my snack to like have a piece of turkey with spinach shoved in it or something like that. Like I just keep my mind like, okay, I need to make up for those veggies somewhere else, because a lot of times my snacks don't have veggies in it. And so, kind of compensating like that and not feeling like it has to be all or nothing. We don't have to do it all or we suck. We could like fit it into our lives how it works for us, because we're all individuals. And I would say the answer to any question is kind of like, it depends. It depends on what works for us. Anybody else have a food that they always are like, oh, it's not a Fitme plate? But one thing I always hear now that I'm thinking about that, oh, it's not a Fitme plate, but is like corn tortillas. I feel like all my people that like, whenever they have a corn tortilla, they're like, it's not a Fitme plate, but I'm like, a corn tortilla is great. Like, where would the world be without corn tortillas? Seriously, no tacos. And so that's another one that I would say the same thing. It's pretty minimally processed. If you look at the back of the ingredients of tortillas, like you can get corn tortillas that literally have like corn and salt.
What does everyone do for pasta? And I love pasta. I'm actually in New Jersey now. And I went to dinner with my mom and she ordered broccoli and shrimp and broccoli scampi over linguine. And I'm like looking at her plate, like salivating, like it was embarrassing. And so I took a couple forkfuls, of course, because it's my mom. So I was able just to reach over and grab a few forkfuls, and it was delicious. I know I'm going to pay for it tomorrow, because it was, all the oily, greasy, things that I normally don't eat. I don't like zoodles. Those I just can't even begin to know. So I just don't eat pasta that often. I usually kind of use it as a treat to myself. Again, just preparing to be in a bit of discomfort for the next 2 days. I've used plantain as a replacement and made like a plantain lasagna that was really good.
A what?
A plantain lasagna. So
plantain.
Yeah, I used that, and I've also made like eggplant lasagna as a alternative. But just like a good old fashioned linguine dish, I miss it.
I have tried lots of different, like try to pull one over on my family, veggie kind of pasta, different gluten-free things. And they're always like, why does this taste weird? I just can't, I can't pull it off. And so I would say, Nicole, in your case, if you love it that much, treat it as a treat and go for the freaking whatever kind of pasta you want and enjoy that sucker, instead of like trying to find something that's just okay and you don't really enjoy it as much.
Yeah, there's a couple of chickpea. There's a one chickpea pasta. I think Natika on the call actually recommended. And it wasn't bad, but it was definitely the first time I made it wasn't bad. The second time, I think I might have. It's very sensitive to the cooking. Like if you go like 30 seconds or a minute over, it turns into like dust. Or
it has a line.
Yeah, there's a very fine line, I learned. So I decided to board it again. So yeah, I may have to do that, but that's like the one thing, like this, especially in the winter, like a nice big bowl of pasta and some spaghetti. I make it for my boys. And I'm like watching them eat it, like, wow, enjoy that metabolism now, boys. Like, so
I just made spaghetti the other day for the first time in a long time, and I grew spaghetti squash, and so I had mine on spaghetti squash because I'm not a huge pasta person. My dad's Italian. He used to make spaghetti and meatballs and sausage, whatever, and we would eat it for a week, like literally a week. And so I'm just not into it that much anymore. He ruined me. But I can tolerate the spaghetti squash. I don't know if you've ever tried it. I mean, it's not the same, but it is still,
yeah,
it is
no,
still
I've
good,
tried.
but it's not the same.
I've tried. It was kind of like, oh no, this isn't going to work.
That's
'Cause
anticlimactic.
yeah, I'd rather just have, indulge. Like
Yeah.
you said, just treat myself. Like it was okay. Like it was like, oh, this is nice, but it wasn't something I would go to.
I don't like spaghetti squashed either. Zoodles are okay. The chickpea pasta, yeah, if you don't cook it just right, it will fall apart. I think it's Baroa has the gluten-free pasta. It's made of corn and rice, I think. Which is our go-to gluten-free pasta, just because it's the most tolerable. But again, I'm allergic to corn, so it's one of two evils. Either I eat wheat or I eat corn. There's nothing in between.
If you're not allergic, if pasta does not bother you, I would say if you measure out a cup of pasta at a responsible, or eyeball it at a responsible portion size, which I would say would be probably about a cup. I think there's nothing wrong with pasta if you're going to have that once in a while, if it doesn't bother you. So that's kind of another thing. It's not about the actual pasta that's going to do anything to you. It's the calories. And I just think that people get wrapped up in certain foods are going to make them gain weight, and so they can't eat them. And if, like I said, if the physical ailment isn't there, because I know I'll stay away from a food if it physically makes me not feel good. I'm more apt to stay away from it than if I can't have it because I'm on a diet, right? Because the physical usually happens pretty quickly, right? And so it reminds me like, oh shit, I don't like feeling this in my stomach. Blah. So that's the reason why you should or shouldn't stay. That's why you shouldn't eat a food. If it really doesn't agree with you physically, that should be I don't really want that in my nutritional lifestyle versus like, just because it happens to be a certain food that people say is bad.
That way with cheese.
No, go ahead.
With cheese, yeah.
I read something about cheese, my elimination diet, and it's funny that Nicole said that cheese in particular upsets her and that pisses her off because she loves cheese. I read that we actually crave the things that we're allergic to or that affect our bodies weird. It's kind of like a drug. I know that sounds kind of weird. But I feel like that makes sense for some reason. Like our body needs it. It's like this weird toxic thing. It needs this response or something, or it needs, I don't really know. But I thought it was an interesting concept because I start thinking about the things that I crave, and it's all the things that irritate my body. I don't think cheese is bad either. It's an accessory food, it's what it should be treated as, just because it's a fat, and fat has 9 calories versus 4 calories per gram. And so it's just a denser food. And so treating it more like an accessory food versus like, that's your meal. I mean, we're not going to eat a block of cheese with a little bit of carb and protein sprinkled on top.
I don't know. I might.
I know. My husband literally can take one of those pounds or those 2-pound blocks, tear a piece off and just eat it. I'm like, who does that? That's barbaric. I go to slice a piece for a sandwich and it's all like tore. It's weird. I don't get it. He's a cheeser too, and cheese affects him big time also.
Just don't eat cheese and then go have your cholesterol checked. You want
little clogs in the artery.
because it will make your cholesterol levels high.
Interesting. What do you guys think about sugar?
I love sugar. No, I eat it.
It's my favorite food. No.
My best friend. I love it.
Yeah, it's my best friend.
I do too.
Comforts me. Warms me when I'm sad.
Well, for some reason, I think it's one of those foods that it's like a go-to, like for emotions, for celebration, for happy, for sad, for all these things. But it's also one of these foods that I feel like makes us feel the most guilty about eating. And I know why that is, but for me, it's a food that it's like all or nothing. Like it's very hard for me to control just having a slice or something of like a slice of cake and not just go back and nickel and dime the cake until it's completely gone. And when I do just have a slice, it's usually I'm somewhere and I'm like, have the slice and I'm sitting on my hands literally. So I can't like,
I'm that way with cake, but like chocolate, my husband, we buy bags and bags of chocolate at Costco. And then he doles it out to me 1 or 2 pieces a day. And so I always save calories at the end of the day for that, or for a scoop of ice cream or something. But when it comes to cake, that's very hard to resist. And I don't know why, but I can eat a whole cake. If I don't share it with everybody in the household.
no cake or the whole cake.
Exactly. And I got a few more birthdays I have to make cakes for.
Which is really sad because there are some really delicious, treats out there. And in a perfect world, I would love us all to like be able to choose this treat, say no to treats, choose a treat that's like really delicious and that we're really super going to enjoy. And that's like high quality, and then move on with our lives. Cause I feel like, I'm an alcoholic addict, and I feel like sugar is the only thing in my sober life that gives me those same feelings of like guilt, shame, bingey, can't control myself, like all the things that like alcohol and drugs used to do for me. It's like the only thing in my life that kind of takes control of my brain. And so I'm a constant work in progress on just trying to say no to treats and say yes to good ones, and not just eat them all.
Is there a better sugar? Like, is brown sugar better than, or raw sugar better than, the...
I think we're kind of getting in the weeds again, with going in that topic. I feel like, do I feel like a high quality cookie or piece of cake from like your favorite bakery is probably a better choice than like Kit Kat, Hershey bars, like all the, the Palmers, like all the kind of crappy. But that's only because these companies have spent, trillions of dollars trying to like make this food not quite satisfying. They wanted to be like highly tasty, but still not give you that satisfied thing. I mean, have you noticed if you eat you go to a restaurant, you get like a molten lava chocolate cake that is made in house, it's gorgeous, it's delicious, and you eat it and you're like, okay, I'm good. But you notice you sit down with the Halloween bag and you'll eat the whole goddamn thing. Just one more piece, just one more piece, one more piece, just one more piece. So it's like, that's kind of what I think about versus like white sugar, brown sugar, refined sugar, all the things, sugar in the raw. Like, does that really matter? I don't know. But I try not to look at it as in types of sugar, like specifically, but more in like the quality of the treat. Yeah.
What I find, Raquel, is that since I have eliminated a lot of processed foods and a lot of sugars, added sugars in my diet, like I don't drink soda, I don't drink juice. Basically, I drink water. Basically, my day starts off with coffee with this creamer, water, and then ends with wine. So those are my beverages, depending on the time of day. And when I eat highly processed sugars of things that I used to love, it tastes horrible now. Like I don't like it. And it doesn't, like I don't enjoy it. So I kind of use my Fitme practices, and I don't finish it, and I stop eating it. But to Leah's point, if I go to a nice restaurant and it's a good quality dessert and it's portioned right and made well, I enjoy it and I don't feel guilty and I don't get sick. Strangely enough, but if I eat a Reese's peanut butter cup, which I love, 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 love. If there's an Armageddon, I'm grabbing peanut butter before I grab my kid. So yeah. But when I eat them now, I don't enjoy them as much as I used to, because it just doesn't have the same satisfaction. So
I like that.
Yeah,
That is true.
yeah, I've only been in On Track so far, and I've cut out soda, so I haven't had any soda. I was a soda addict, and I haven't had any soda since January 3rd, and I haven't even tasted one, so I don't know if I'll still love it or not because I don't want to go near it. I'm afraid, but I totally feel that way about sugar. Like I have tried to cut back, and I used to eat yogurt, like flavored yogurt in the morning, and now I'm like, oh my god, it's like too sweet. Like it's like too much. That's like, yeah, it was definitely surprising.
That is
sure.
also the thing about sugars. Once you get a taste for it, your body craves it, because guess what? Carbs are our preferred energy source and sugar gets in there quick. I notice that if I'm fueling myself well, I've eaten my breakfast, I've eaten my lunch, I've eaten my dinner, I've had my snacks, like I've given my body what it needs. I don't crave that sugar as much at night because I'm a nighttime sugar. I don't crave that sugar as much because guess what? I've given my body what it needs. It's not feeling like it still needs a bump of energy because God damn it, I didn't feed it well today. And so that's kind of how I manage my sugar is making sure that I'm putting quality food into my body and thinking about it as fuel, versus like, and that helps me with my sugar. Well, ladies, good call. Nice to see some new faces. And again, if you guys want to talk about anything, let me know. Let me know like earlier than later, because I've been posting every Tuesday what we're going to talk about. And so we can continue. I've been thinking about doing elimination diet talk, but we'll see. It'll probably happen at some point. But love you, ladies. Thanks for coming.
Have a good night.
You guys have a good night too.
good night, everyone.
Bye.